How's it going, everyone? I hope you're having a great week. Today we're going to be talking about the unannounced but totally happening sequel to Halloween 2018. I haven't done one of these videos in a while because there just really hasn't been that much news, but we've gotten a couple new updates over the past few weeks that I thought would be worth talking about. The first thing comes straight from Jason Blum's Twitter. He put out a tweet asking people what they think of Leigh Whannell's Invisible Man movie that's coming out early next year, and of course, while people are really excited for that movie, myself included, everyone just started asking him about Halloween because that's what happens on Twitter. To his credit though, he told one fan that he's working on it and he told another one to have patience, but regardless, there's no way they're gonna tell us anything that's going on with this movie until it's officially announced. But that being said, I think there's a few more things going on behind the scenes than we actually know at this point. The first thing you have to consider is that Blumhouse hired a writer named Scott Teems back in February to write a treatment for this sequel, and if you look at when it was announced that David Gordon Green and Danny McBride and of course Jeff Bradley would be writing the script for last year's Halloween movie, that was February of 2017. So if they're shooting for October of 2020 for the sequel, that timing lines up perfectly. And guys, no matter what happens here, there's no way that a movie that made $250 million on like a $20 million budget doesn't get a sequel in some fashion. The only thing I can think of as to why it's kind of taking so long for it to be announced is that maybe there's some fighting between Trancast and Universal and Blumhouse has to play the middleman, but that's literally the only thing I can think of. There's no way they're gonna leave that money on the table and not make a sequel. I just don't see that being a possibility. I was also thinking about the fact that the reason that Blumhouse announced Halloween 2018 so early was because that was an event. That was a big comeback for a franchise that hadn't seen a new entry since Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 in 2009. And no matter how you look at it, there's very few ways in which a sequel to Halloween 2018 could be anywhere close to as big of an event as Halloween 2018 was last year. The last reason I feel like we haven't seen or heard anything yet is because I feel like they kind of learned a lesson with last year's Halloween movie where stuff came out way too early and way too much was revealed. We got some set photos, we got some posters all when the movie was shooting, and then there was a huge gap in between that where we kind of got nothing, and then by the time they needed to do marketing, they were just throwing anything out there because people were so hyped. I feel like this time around they're going to want to keep it more controlled and make sure that the information flow is a little more controlled. I feel like that's the right word for it. And that brings us to our next story, which is an interview with John Carpenter during the Cannes Film Festival that Collider posted last week. They straight up asked him when he was going to do a new movie, and this is what he had to say. "I don't have one scheduled, but I'm working on things. I made a lot of movies and I got burned out and I had to stop for a while. I have to have a life. Circumstances would have to be correct for me to do it again. I'd love to make a little horror film. That would be great. Or a big adventure film. It would be a project that I like that's budgeted correctly. Nowadays, they make these young directors do a movie for $2 million when the movie is written for $10 million. So you have to squeeze it all in there, and I don't want to do that anymore." While that last part kind of sounds like a dig at the way Blumhouse does things, I feel like if John Carpenter ever went back to them and said, "Hey, I want to do a Halloween movie with Universal, a sequel to last year's movie," they'd be like, "Yeah, here's as much money as you want, go ahead." And just to be clear, I'm aware that John Carpenter probably isn't directing next year's Halloween, but until he says he's not directing it, I'm gonna pretend that he might be because I want to see that sequel so bad. And just before we get into the next update, this one is definitely a rumor, so take it with a huge grain of salt. One of my viewers named Michael, who also has a YouTube channel that I'll link down below, let me know that he saw on a Halloween message board from a pretty reliable leaker that not only are they shooting a sequel to last year's Halloween, but they're going back to the original idea and shooting two of them back to back. Another interesting thing he said is that this time around Haddonfield will once again move and not be in South Carolina, and that they were looking at Georgia, kind of like the Atlanta area, but they decided against it because of some recent legislation there. Personally, while I like the idea of getting two Halloween movies back to back, I feel like they should take it one at a time just because of the nature of this franchise. It's really hard to do consecutive Halloween movies right, so committing to making two of them just seems like biting off more than they can chew. I'd love to hear what you think though down in the comments. Regardless, well, that's all the news I have for you guys today. If you stuck around to the end, I have something really cool to show you. If you've been watching my Child's Play videos, you probably saw this guy sitting in the background in the past few of them, but I wanted to wait for a Halloween update to let you know where I got it. This is a Trick or Treat Studios Halloween mask, but it was repainted by my friend Charles, who runs a store called CK Collectibles. He actually very kindly offered to repaint this guy for me at a discount as long as I sent him the mask and then talked about it in a video, and that was kind of like a no-brainer for me. I ordered the mask from a great website called Nightmare Toys, and I had it shipped directly to him, and then he had it back in my hands within just a couple weeks, which is a great turnaround time for how amazing this thing looks. So not only did he repaint this mask from top to bottom, which looks awesome, he also did some nicks and scratches to make it look more like the movie one, and he did a weird, kind of cool experimental hair treatment on it that turned out great. It looks a lot like the movie mask to me, and I feel like it was worth every penny. I put the link to his shop down in the description, and if you want to get one of these for yourself, if you provide your mask, it'll be $120 $120, but towards July, he'll be selling his own completely done versions for around $175, and either way, I think it's worth it. That's all the Halloween news I have for you guys this week. Let me know what you think down in the comments below, and make sure you hit the bell button when you subscribe. Anyways, guys, my name is Jimmy Champane, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.